Hello there and welcome to the Science for Sleep. Hibernation is one of nature's most mysterious, gentle, and astonishing strategies for survival, a biological whisper hidden beneath winter's icy silence. And tonight, as we drift together into this quiet world of sleepy science, we explore a realm where life slows almost to a stop, where the heartbeat of the earth softens, and where the creatures that share our planet surrender themselves to stillness with an elegance that feels almost otherworldly. Beneath layers of snow, soil, bark, and frozen lakes, an entire secret society of sleepers rests in patient calm, trusting that warmth will return and that spring will eventually call them back to life. Hibernation is the science of waiting, conserving, and quietly enduring, the slow rhythm of winter breathing across the living world. Frogs freeze solid yet thaw into motion, bears sleep for months without eating or drinking, tiny mammals reduce their heartbeats to almost nothing, and bats hover on the razor's edge between life and death with perfect precision. Scientists today study these miracles of stillness, hoping to one day use the lessons of hibernation to protect astronauts on deep space missions, preserve human organs for transplantation, slow the processes of disease, and perhaps even delay aging itself. But before we explore the future, let us settle gently into the present moment. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts soften. Let your eyes grow heavy. Tonight, the hush of winter becomes our classroom. One of the most unbelievable wonders of hibernation is found in the wood frog, a small, unassuming creature that performs a transformation so extraordinary it borders on science fiction. As winter arrives and temperatures plummet, ice begins to form around and even inside the frog's body. Its heart stops completely. Its lungs cease all movement. Blood freezes within the veins, spreading like tiny glass threads through the body. Every visible sign of life disappears. Yet moments before this icy stillness takes full hold, the frog's liver floods its body with a concentrated mix of glucose and urea, bathing every cell in a protective layer that prevents delicate tissues from rupturing. This biological antifreeze allows the frog to remain frozen stiff for the entire winter, preserved in a state of suspended animation. When spring warmth finally returns, the ice melts in a precise order, the frog's heart begins beating again, and within just a few hours, it hops away as if nothing remarkable has happened at all. No machine created by humans can yet replicate this perfect pause between life and death, this seamless dance between freezing and revival. The wood frog reminds us that life on Earth is capable of far more flexibility than we imagine, and that nature's quietest miracles are often its most profound. While frogs freeze, another kind of miracle unfolds inside hibernating mammals, the slowing of aging itself. Every cell in a living body experiences constant wear, and every heartbeat, every chemical reaction, every breath leaves microscopic traces of damage. Oxygen keeps us alive, yet it also generates unstable molecules called free radicals that slowly harm DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. Over time, this damage accumulates, aging the body. But during hibernation, metabolism drops so dramatically that this internal storm of activity nearly stops. Cells shift their energy from building new materials to repairing existing ones. Waste is cleared more efficiently. Oxidation slows, reducing the constant chemical friction of life. Even the brain benefits, entering a state where harmful proteins are swept away more effectively than during normal sleep. Studies have shown that animals that hibernate often live significantly longer than closely related species that remain active year-round. Their bodies age in slow motion, protected by the chemistry of stillness, proving that sometimes the best way to survive time is to let it pass more slowly. It is a quiet reminder that the world does not always reward constant motion. Sometimes, deep rest is the key to resilience. Perhaps one of the most famous hibernators is the bear, a creature so powerful and massive that imagining it curled into stillness for months seems almost contradictory. Yet bears enter dens each winter and remain there for up to half a year without food, water, or movement. A human bedridden for even a few weeks would lose strength rapidly, muscles shrinking and bones weakening. But bears awaken from months of stillness with their strength fully intact. Inside the den, the bear's heart slows to just a few beats per minute. Breathing becomes shallow and occasional. Its body recycles nitrogen from waste and transforms it into new proteins, feeding and preserving muscle fibers. Hormones maintain bone density, preventing the brittleness that immobilization causes in other animals. Tiny tremors ripple through the limbs now and then, just enough to keep circulation active. When spring sunlight seeps into the den, the bear rises almost immediately, walking with steady steps, powerful muscles, and clear strength, as though its long rest had been nothing more than a peaceful nap. Researchers dream of adapting these mechanisms for human medicine, helping patients recover from extended hospital stays, long-term immobilization, or deep space missions without losing the strength required for life. While bears command attention through size, bats astonish through contrast. When flying, a bat's heart beats extraordinarily fast, faster than nearly any mammal its size, pumping hundreds of times per minute to support the intense metabolic demands of flight. But when winter arrives and insects vanish, bats enter a state of torpor so deep that their heartbeats may pause for minutes at a time. Their body temperature drops to match their cold surroundings. Blood flow becomes minimal. Oxygen use falls to a tiny fraction of normal levels. In this suspended state, the bat becomes a living ember of energy, glowing just enough to endure the long famine of winter. Every few days or weeks, the bat briefly stirs, raises its temperature, checks its surroundings, and then slips back into deep stillness. This careful balance between activity and rest allows the bat to survive months without food. It is a lesson in precision. Endurance is not only about strength but about knowing exactly when to be still. Among the champions of extreme hibernation is the Arctic ground squirrel, a creature that survives winters so harsh that even the air seems to crackle with cold. These squirrels allow their body temperature to fall below the freezing point of water, colder than ice, yet their tissues remain perfectly unharmed. Unlike the wood frog, they avoid actual freezing inside their cells thanks to specialized proteins and protective molecules that prevent ice crystals from forming. Their hearts slow dramatically, sometimes to only a few beats per minute. Their brains enter a state with no detectable electrical activity, a silence deeper than sleep. And yet, they remain alive. Several times each winter, they rewarm themselves for a short period and then cool again, a cycle that prevents cellular stress and prepares the body for eventual revival. Scientists study these squirrels intensely, hoping to unlock secrets for human cryopreservation, organ transport, and emergency medicine. If we one day learn to safely cool human tissues to such low temperatures, new possibilities in healthcare may unfold. While mammals and amphibians have extraordinary adaptations, reptiles contribute wonders of their own. Painted turtles, for instance, spend winter buried in mud beneath frozen ponds, surviving months without taking a single breath of air. Unable to surface through layers of solid ice, they shift into an entirely different metabolic mode, one that does not use oxygen at all. Instead, their bodies rely on anaerobic chemical reactions to produce energy. These reactions generate acid as a byproduct, which would normally damage or kill tissue. But painted turtles possess a unique solution. Their shells act like biological sponges, absorbing and neutralizing the acid using stored calcium compounds. Their heart beats slow to only a couple of pulses per minute, nerve activity becomes minimal, and the turtle remains alive through chemical balance alone. When spring thaw finally arrives, oxygen returns to the pond, and the turtles revive within hours unharmed. Their winter survival strategy provides insights into protecting human tissues when blood flow is interrupted, during strokes, cardiac arrest, or transplant procedures. Through these creatures, nature teaches us that life can persist without breath not through magic, but through quiet, ancient chemistry refined over countless winters. The more scientists learn about hibernation, the more they imagine ways to apply it to human challenges, especially those beyond Earth. Space travel remains one of the greatest frontiers of human ambition, yet the human body is poorly suited for long voyages. Long missions require food, oxygen, radiation protection, and psychological stability. Hibernation may hold answers to many of these challenges. By studying animals that naturally enter torpor, researchers hope to one day slow human metabolism safely, allowing astronauts to sleep through months-long journeys to Mars or even more distant worlds. Early experiments with mammals have shown that induced hibernation can be triggered through controlled cooling and targeted brain stimulation. NASA is actively exploring concepts for future missions where astronauts spend most of the journey in a hibernation-like state, with machines managing ship systems while the crew rests in low-energy preservation pods. A body in torpor would require fewer resources, produce less waste, and be less vulnerable to radiation damage because slower cells accumulate fewer mutations. It is a vision where the ancient science of winter survival may one day carry us across the vastness of space. Another remarkable feature of hibernation is the immune system's ability to shut down and restart without harm. For most living creatures, constant immune defense is essential for survival. Yet hibernators suspend their immunity almost entirely, allowing white blood cells to retreat into organs and wait in stillness. When the animal awakens, the immune system restarts flawlessly, as if no interruption occurred. Understanding this process may help doctors prevent complications in organ transplants, autoimmune disorders, and long-term medical sedation. In every corner of the natural world, hibernation reveals itself not as sleep, not as death, but as a unique state of being, a controlled pause that protects life during hardship. From frozen frogs and slumbering bears to breathless turtles and ice-cold squirrels, nature demonstrates again and again that survival is not always about fighting, striving, or moving forward. Sometimes survival comes from surrender, from quiet endurance, from trusting the slow passage of time. Tonight, as you drift deeper into this gentle world of winter science, allow yourself to soften into stillness, to breathe at your own pace, to imagine the calm that lives beneath the surface of the coldest nights. Perhaps the creatures of winter have something to teach us, not only about biology, but about life itself, about patience, about resilience, about the quiet power of rest. And as you settle into your own peaceful state tonight, may the hush of hibernation cradle your thoughts like a blanket of snow settling over a sleeping forest. Hibernation contains some of the most extraordinary biological secrets nature has ever written, and among these secrets lies the astonishing ability of many animals to shut down their immune systems almost entirely, and then restart them again without harm. A process that functions like a clean reboot of the body's defense network, allowing their internal systems to pause, rest, and rise again with perfect precision when warmth returns, and researchers believe this remarkable control could transform human medicine, especially in fields like organ transplantation, autoimmune disorders, long-term sedation, and recovery from extreme medical conditions, because understanding how hibernators can pause and reset immunity without losing balance or triggering harmful responses may teach us how to temporarily rest the human immune system during crises, offering new pathways to healing by mimicking the calm, patient intelligence of winter itself, where life does not rush but instead follows slow, ancient rhythms that sustain survival across thousands of generations. Among the many beautiful examples of this deep seasonal stillness are dormice, creatures whose lives are divided cleanly between seasons of abundance and seasons of absence, making them master timekeepers of the natural world. During the warm months they feed tirelessly, storing every calorie they can in their tiny bodies to build thick layers of fat that will sustain them through the long sleep ahead. And as the air cools and food becomes scarce, they retreat into hidden burrows deep beneath the earth where the soil insulates them from the bite of frost. There, they curl into nests lined with leaves, moss, and threads of grass, allowing their hearts to slow, their breathing to nearly disappear, and their body temperature to fall until it matches the quiet chill of the surrounding ground. Dormice can remain in this suspended state not merely for weeks or months, but sometimes for more than half the year, waking only when the scent of spring creeps through the soil, tugging at their instincts like a forgotten melody. Their name itself comes from the Latin word for sleep, an appropriate title for a creature whose entire survival depends not on resistance or combat but on perfect timing, patience, and surrender to the natural cycles of the world. They sleep through hunger, storms, predators, and freezing nights, trusting the long rhythm of the earth to carry them to safety. Hummingbirds, in contrast, experience a different challenge. Rather than sleeping through months of scarcity, they must survive the extremely cold hours of each night. Their engines run so hot that a few hours of nighttime chill could drain every calorie they consumed during the day, so they solve this brutal mathematical problem with torpor, a controlled shutdown of metabolism that drops their temperature more than 20 degrees and cuts energy use by up to 90%, allowing them to endure the darkness. Perched delicately on a twig, a hummingbird loosens its grip into a special locking tendon that keeps it from falling even as consciousness fades, folds its feathers tightly against its body to conserve every bit of heat, and lets its world dim into stillness. Heartbeats that thunder during flight slow to a faint pulse, breathing stretches into long intervals of silence, and the bird becomes a tiny spark hidden in the chill. But just before dawn, a furnace of brown fat ignites along its shoulders and neck, rapidly warming blood that races toward the brain and flight muscles, and within minutes the bird lifts off again, bright, fast, and alive, a miracle of precision and resilience repeated every single night. Hibernators, whether they sleep for a night or for half a year, share another astonishing trait. Despite complete immobility, they lose almost no muscle tissue. For most animals, including humans, a long period without movement results in rapid muscle wasting, but true hibernators have rewritten the rules of biology. Deep inside their bodies, the recycling of proteins is transformed. Instead of excreting nitrogen as waste, hibernators reclaim it, converting it back into essential amino acids that build and preserve muscle fibers. Enzymes that break down protein are dialed to minimal activity, while enzymes that rebuild tissue continue working at a steady baseline, allowing muscles to maintain their strength even in near-zero activity. Nerves remain connected, supported by subtle metabolic adjustments, and periodic microtremors, barely visible shivers, keep nutrients flowing to the tissues without expending much energy. Even mitochondria, the powerhouses of cells, enter a more efficient mode, shifting to preserve muscle under low oxygen and cold temperatures. Studies on ground squirrels, bears, and other hibernators consistently show that after months of total stillness, their muscle mass and contractile strength remain almost completely intact, offering hope that one day humans might copy this natural strategy to help bedridden patients, astronauts, or people recovering from severe injuries. In yet another variation of hibernation, desert toads practice a form of torpor tuned not to winter's cold but to the deadly absence of water. In harsh landscapes where the year is divided by rainfall rather than temperature, survival depends on the ability to wait out droughts that may last months or even years. Spadefoot and other desert toads burrow deep into the earth when the soil begins to crack under the relentless sun, shedding layers of skin that form a waterproof cocoon around their bodies. Inside this protective envelope, they slow their heartbeat to a fragile whisper, reduce movement to zero, and rely on fat reserves that must last not for weeks, but sometimes for multiple years. They conserve water with astonishing efficiency, allowing them to survive in ground so dry it can turn ponds into dust and rivers into hardened beds of clay. Their ears, tuned to low-frequency vibrations, listen for distant thunderstorms, and when the sound of thunder finally rolls through the soil, the toads awaken, climb toward the surface, and pour into newly formed puddles with explosive urgency. They call loudly, mate quickly, and lay eggs that hatch and develop at extraordinary speed, because the temporary pools will evaporate within days. This is hibernation adapted to thirst rather than cold, proof that torpor is not tied to winter but is instead a universal survival language spoken across deserts, forests, mountains, and deep caves. Inside the brains of hibernating animals, even stranger transformations unfold. Brain activity nearly vanishes, entering a minimal mode that saves massive amounts of energy, but it does not turn off completely. Instead, the brain becomes selectively vigilant. Large-scale rhythms fade, synapses temporarily loosen their connections, and neurotransmitter levels fall, yet certain circuits stay alert to critical danger signals such as the scent of a predator, carbon dioxide buildup, or sudden vibrations. This selective wakefulness protects the animal without the full costs of consciousness. If danger appears, a controlled cascade rapidly restores temperature and blood flow to essential brain regions first, bringing awareness online in a precise sequence. Memory remains intact because specialized proteins stabilize synapses during the cold phase, then guide reconnection during the rewarming phase, allowing hibernators to wake with their knowledge and instincts unchanged. A brain can dim almost to darkness, yet still keep a tiny flame burning, a pilot light of awareness ready to flare into action when needed. Among bees, hibernation takes an even more delicate form. Bumblebee queens, the sole survivors of their colonies, hibernate alone beneath the earth after all other bees perish at summer's end. A newly mated queen digs into cool soil, curls her legs inward, and enters a deep torpor that may last months. Sugars and fats stored in her body ration out slowly, her breathing passages sealed tightly to conserve precious moisture, and her muscles remain ready to awaken at the first sign of warmth. Frost, predators, and storms pass above her while she lies perfectly still. But when spring returns, she rises from the earth like a small miracle, immediately searching for a nest site, often a tiny abandoned mouse hole. She warms her flight muscles with a rapid buzzing vibration, gathers pollen and nectar alone, and lays the first eggs that will become the workers of a new colony. From one solitary queen slumbering under the ground, an entire city of bees is born. Even among the largest hibernators, the wonders continue. Female bears give birth during hibernation without ever fully waking. Inside the den, while snow seals the world outside in silent white, a pregnant bear shifts from pure energy conservation into a carefully timed developmental state. Her cubs, born tiny and blind and scarcely larger than a fruit, arrive while their mother remains torpid, yet her maternal instincts and nursing reflexes stay fully functional. Milk production begins without the need for food intake because her body reroutes stored fat into rich nourishment. The den stays warm enough from her slowed metabolism and insulating walls to keep the cubs safe. For weeks they nurse and grow while she barely moves, and when spring breaks open the den, the once helpless infants emerge strong enough to cling to her fur and follow her steps. This elegant pairing of dormancy and reproduction is one of nature's most astonishing energy budget systems, showing how life can flourish even in deep stillness. Looking beyond Earth, scientists study hibernation for clues to human survival in space. Radiation is a constant threat outside Earth's magnetic shield, where fast-moving particles slice through living tissue and damage DNA. One promising idea is that induced torpor might reduce radiation harm by slowing down the body's metabolic processes, allowing repair systems more time to work and reducing the number of vulnerable cellular events. Early studies showed that animals in induced torpor experience calmer inflammatory responses and less oxidative stress, two factors that worsen radiation damage when uncontrolled. Cooling the body and reducing metabolism could also shrink life support needs on spacecraft, allowing engineers to allocate more mass toward radiation shielding where it matters most. Future space habitats may guide astronauts through cycles of torpor and periodic wakefulness, aligning sleep with solar storms when exposure is highest. Although human protocols will require careful, ethical development, the idea is elegant. Survival in space might begin with learning to be still at exactly the right moments. Through all these examples, dormice curled in mossy nests, hummingbirds dimming themselves into sparks of life, toads wrapped in waterproof cocoons, bears nursing young in frozen dens, bees dreaming alone under winter soil, we see the same quiet truth repeated across ecosystems. Hibernation is not the absence of life, but a different expression of it, one that values patience over speed, stillness over struggle, and timing over constant motion. It is a biological wisdom written across deserts, forests, mountains, and frozen lakes, teaching us that survival is sometimes found not in action but in rest, in letting the world slow until conditions are right again. And as scientists continue to explore these ancient rhythms, they uncover new possibilities for medicine, space exploration, human health, and our understanding of life itself, proving that the calm intelligence of winter still has much to teach us. Not all fat in the animal kingdom exists simply for storage or insulation. A remarkable portion of it, known as brown adipose tissue, serves as a biological furnace, densely packed with mitochondria and equipped with a unique protein that enables energy to be released directly as heat rather than being captured and stored as chemical fuel. And hibernating animals rely on this specialized tissue with extraordinary precision, placing it strategically around the spine, neck, and shoulders so that warm, freshly heated blood can rush efficiently toward the heart and brain during the delicate moments of arousal from deep torpor, allowing a dormant animal to transition rapidly back to alertness without needing to shiver or burn unnecessary oxygen, which is especially crucial when every breath during winter scarcity carries an energy cost. This brown fat acts like an internal ignition system, ready to flood nearby vessels with warmth at the slightest hormonal cue, and the efficiency of this shiver-free heating process becomes especially important when oxygen is limited beneath snow, soil, or ice, where strong muscle contractions would demand more air than the animal can safely acquire. So evolution instead crafted a way to wake softly, quietly, and powerfully, relying on chemical heat rather than muscular work, and this system is so effective that many mammalian infants, including human newborns, also carry brown fat deposits for the very same reason, giving them the ability to maintain core temperature during their earliest, most vulnerable hours when they cannot regulate heat by movement or shivering. It is a design both simple and brilliant, one that divides labor in the body by storing energy long-term as white fat and keeping an entirely separate furnace of brown fat on standby for emergency ignition and evolution, rather than inventing hibernation only once. Has conjured similar strategies many times across unrelated species, demonstrating just how powerful and advantageous these adaptations become wherever climates fluctuate between abundance and scarcity, and from frogs and ground squirrels to insects, fish, and even microorganisms, forms of dormancy appear repeatedly on distant branches of the tree of life, suggesting that when environments swing between feast and famine, selection pressures consistently favor creatures that can reduce demand when supply vanishes. And this repeated emergence is a roadmap of nature's priorities, proving that evolution values patience, conservation, and control just as much as speed and aggression, and that slowing life to a near halt can be just as sophisticated as accelerating it to extremes. And though people often imagine hibernation as a single, uniform trick, it is instead a diverse family of solutions tailored uniquely by each lineage. Amphibians relying on sugar-based cryoprotection that turns their bodies into living antifreeze. Mammals developing refined hormonal control and processes for recycling proteins during torpor. Insects orchestrating diapause that pauses development entirely and turns their bodies into perfectly still, self-preserving chambers. And all these strategies share one essential thread: the ability to shut down, restart, and endure with precision, keeping life suspended safely until the world becomes forgiving once again. And in this vast catalog of sleepers, Madagascar's fat-tailed dwarf lemurs stand out as the only primates known to truly hibernate, performing a seasonal ritual high in the spiny forests where they prepare for the region's long dry season not by migrating or gathering food but by entering extended dormancy, gorging on fruit until their tails become swollen storage organs filled with fat reserves, then retreating into hollow trees where their heart rate drops from over 100 beats per minute to barely 6. And their breathing slows so dramatically that minutes may pass without a single breath, while their body temperature drifts freely with the ambient air around them, sometimes falling so low that it nearly matches the cool forest shade, and for as long as 7 months, they remain hidden within those hollow shelters, stirring only occasionally to shift position before slipping back into deep stillness. And this discovery dramatically reshaped scientists' understanding of mammalian limits, even hinting that ancient primates, including very early human ancestors, may once have possessed similar abilities now lost to evolutionary time, reminding us that complex consciousness and deep rest are not mutually exclusive and that a brain capable of sophisticated thought might still benefit from a seasonal, energy-saving descent into near silence. And within this silence, hibernation does more than slow heartbeats and breaths. It suppresses pain throughout the body, altering how nerves carry information so that pain receptors become less responsive and signals that would normally ignite discomfort never reach the brain. And in hibernating ground squirrels, even severe injuries evoke little reaction during deep torpor, with inflammation chemicals reduced to minimal levels that prevent swelling and tissue damage, allowing healing to continue in the background without triggering energy-consuming distress. And this natural anesthesia holds profound potential for medicine, suggesting that if humans could mimic the neural quieting and metabolic stillness of hibernation without losing consciousness, surgical procedures, trauma care, and recovery from severe injury could be revolutionized, revealing a new possibility. That cold silence itself might carry a form of relief that modern medicine has yet to fully explore. And cooperation, too, becomes essential in the harshest seasons. As shown by garter snakes in northern climates, where solitary survival through winter is impossible, so they gather by the hundreds or thousands in deep limestone cracks and underground chambers that remain just warm enough to prevent freezing, creating massive communal dens where snakes coil in layered knots, sharing the faint warmth of their bodies while the den breathes slowly through narrow openings that maintain just enough oxygen for survival, each snake lowering its metabolism until one slow breath may last minutes. And for months they remain in this living braid, conserving the little heat the earth provides until the first rays of spring sunlight reach the stones and spark gentle movement, the mass stirring in soft waves with a sound like rustling leaves as they pour back across fields, wetlands, and ponds to hunt and mate, proving that even creatures often imagined as solitary depend on connection when the world turns cold, and while some animals rely on shared warmth, others depend on molecular adaptations so precise they operate at temperatures where ordinary life would freeze, carrying enzymes that work best near freezing and remain flexible enough to bind molecules in thickened cytoplasm, making them perfect tools for organisms in icy environments despite the trade-off that they fail at warmer temperatures. And such cold-active enzymes appear in fish that keep digestion running even in sub-zero seawater and in Arctic bacteria that recycle nutrients trapped in permafrost. And studying these proteins has inspired innovations in industry by revealing how chemical reactions can proceed efficiently without heat, reducing energy waste and environmental impact, showing again that life does not merely endure the cold, it sculpts itself to thrive within it. And painted turtles, when trapped under frozen ponds without access to air, shift to anaerobic metabolism, slowing energy use until their cells survive entirely on stored sugars, producing lactic acid that their shells absorb and neutralize with calcium carbonate, effectively turning their skeleton into a chemical life support system until spring returns, at which point the turtles slowly awaken, resume breathing, and release the built-up acid as carbon dioxide, a breathtaking display of biochemical resilience that proves survival can depend as much on chemistry as on physical endurance. And deep within the brain of many animals, the pineal gland reads the changing patterns of daylight, releasing melatonin in longer nightly pulses as days shorten and signaling that the body must begin preparing for winter, reshaping metabolism, appetite, fat composition, and even genetic expressions that shift daily rhythms into seasonal ones. And because this system is so sensitive to changes in light, artificial illumination can disrupt or delay hibernation entirely, demonstrating how ancient survival mechanisms remain tied to the simplest rhythm of Earth. Day and night, and every flicker of dawn or dusk becomes a message recorded by the pineal gland, whispering instructions to sleep, to wake, or to wait. And in animals that regularly enter deep torpor for extended periods, research suggests that these long sleepers tend to live longer, likely because reduced metabolic stress allows the body to repair itself more effectively, with decreased cellular damage, slower aging of organ systems, and fewer oxidative reactions that normally accumulate over a lifetime, supporting the idea that controlled stillness, far from being a passive state, may be one of nature's most powerful tools for preserving life, extending longevity, and revealing that rest, deep, measured, intentional rest, can be as vital to survival as movement or strength. Each pause reduces the total wear inflicted by constant metabolism, and during torpor, oxygen demand falls so drastically that free radicals, the unstable molecules responsible for much of the cellular damage associated with aging, decline to some of their lowest natural levels, giving enzymes that repair DNA more time to work without interruption, allowing organs that would otherwise age through continuous operation to rest like machines shut down between shifts. Even telomeres, the fragile caps at the ends of chromosomes that shorten with each cell division, seem to erode more slowly in species that regularly enter seasonal dormancy. And when these animals are compared with their active relatives, hibernators often live years longer despite having similar body sizes and diets, teaching a lesson that reaches far beyond biology. Slowing down extends not just lifespan but also the quality of function, reminding us that time does not only pass through movement but also gathers in moments of profound stillness, and nature's longest-lived creatures may owe their extraordinary years not to sheer strength but to the art of measured silence, a rhythm of restraint woven deep into their biology. Fossil burrows suggest that some ancient reptiles hibernated underground in the rock layers of the Karoo Basin and other fossil-rich regions, where paleontologists have discovered coiled skeletons preserved inside ancient tunnels. Their tucked limbs, curled tails, and resting heads indicating dormancy rather than sudden death, and traces of soil chemistry combined with microscopic sediment features confirm that these reptiles sealed themselves in during harsh droughts or cold seasons, waiting patiently for better conditions to return, and their modern descendants, certain lizards, crocodilians, and other reptiles, still employ similar strategies, hinting that hibernation-like behavior has deep evolutionary roots stretching more than 200 million years into the past. These fossils expand the story of torpor far beyond mammals, proving that even in the Triassic world, as dinosaurs were only beginning to emerge, some creatures had already mastered the secret of sleeping through hardship, suggesting that hibernation is not a new invention but an ancient rhythm older than mammals, older than flowering plants, and written into the bones of time itself. And as humans imagine venturing farther into the cosmos, cryogenic sleep might one day be the mechanism that carries us between the stars, a concept that currently lives in science fiction but edges closer to feasibility with each discovery about torpor. For if metabolism could be safely slowed for weeks, months, or even years, then interplanetary voyages could proceed without massive stores of food or constant life support resources, and medical researchers have already induced brief hibernation-like states in rodents, observing protective effects against injury, stroke, and inflammation. But the primary challenge lies in scaling this precision to human physiology without damaging organs or cognition, and space agencies envision cryosleep pods that lower temperature and metabolic rate under automated, tightly controlled systems that periodically reawaken crew members for monitoring. A technology that could revolutionize both space travel and medicine on Earth, where critical patients might be stabilized for transport or preserved between procedures, blurring the boundary between sleep and survival into something entirely new, a pause long enough to bridge the gulf between worlds. And every spring, billions of awakenings unfold unseen beneath the thawing skin of the planet, creating an immense seasonal exhalation as frogs rise from frozen mud, insects crack open soil chambers, mammals rouse from dens into dim dawn, and microbes reawaken in wet, warming earth to restart the chemistry that feeds roots, leaves, and all higher life, and rivers swell with nutrients released by winter decomposition, prompting the first shoots of green to answer the call. And this mass awakening is not a single synchronized event but a vast upward wave that travels north with the warming sun, reanimating ecosystems in sequence until midsummer brings the pulse of life all the way into the Arctic, completing a circuit that began months earlier near the equator. For every heartbeat that slowed in winter, another now returns, and the scale is almost unimaginable. Billions of tiny revivals adding up to a single planetary rhythm, showing that hibernation does not end with a single animal's yawn but concludes with the earth itself taking a breath. And as autumn fades into winter, hedgehogs vanish beneath drifts of leaves and moss, curling into tight balls with noses tucked against bellies and spines pressed outward like protective armor, and inside their nests, temperatures fall until their bodies cool to nearly match the air around them, their heartbeats slowing from hundreds per minute to just a few. Their breathing becoming faint and rare, a quiet pulse of life that barely disturbs even the dust around them, with fat stores sustaining them for months while their internal chemistry minimizes itself, burning just enough fuel to keep cells alive, and on occasional warm winter nights they awaken briefly, shift position, adjust their nests, then return to that trance of cold calm, and when spring sunlight finally melts frost, the small bodies stir, hearts quicken, and their sleepy eyes blink open as they step back into the world as though the long winter had never truly happened. Deeper inside the bodies of larger hibernators, even more astonishing adaptations operate, for hibernating mammals recycle waste to nourish their own tissues, minimizing loss and preventing toxicity, while fat supplies energy. The real miracle lies in how nitrogen waste is handled, because in normal life urea is excreted through urine, carrying nitrogen away from the body. But during hibernation, losing water would be deadly, so the body reroutes the process. using specialized gut microbes to break urea apart and feed its nitrogen back into the bloodstream where it becomes raw material for building new proteins and repairing tissues, ensuring that muscles remain strong, organs intact, and toxins absent. Even the gut bacteria transform their roles, shifting from digestion to recycling, and when the animal wakes, its kidneys clear the last traces smoothly and the creature emerges from its den with its internal balance nearly perfect, having eaten nothing yet lost little more than fat, showcasing a level of biological efficiency that modern engineering still struggles to equal. And among the most remarkable hibernators, bears maintain bone strength despite months of total inactivity, lying motionless for half a year yet waking with legs that remain strong enough to support their massive weight, while human bones weaken rapidly under bed rest or in spaceflight. But bears preserve theirs through subtle cellular control. The cells that dissolve bones slow down almost completely, while those that rebuild bone continue at a steady, gentle pace, maintaining equilibrium, and calcium moves in a closed loop between blood and bone, never wasted, while marrow continues producing fresh blood cells and hormones regulate mineral levels with sophisticated precision. A natural adaptation that may one day help prevent osteoporosis in humans confined to long recovery or weightlessness. To the bear, however, this is simply survival, and in the silence and darkness of its winter den, its body quietly renovates itself, repairing, rebuilding, and conserving, hiding not decay but maintenance, a form of slow biological construction that carries strength forward through the long stillness. And as metabolism slows almost to zero in deep torpor, time perception also shifts, bending into strange shapes as brain cells fire so rarely that seconds stretch into vast spaces, and the usual rhythm of experience dissolves entirely, so that a day may pass with only a handful of heartbeats and a few shallow breaths, and the brain's internal clocks drift toward stasis, pushing the boundary between sleep and death into a razor-thin line. Yet awareness is not erased but muted into an ancient kind of silence, and when the animal finally awakens, it perceives the world as though rising from a long blink, for the dark months are not endured but skipped, folded into a single moment of suspended consciousness, leading some researchers to call hibernation the closest natural form of paused existence, proof that biology can edit time itself, slowing it to a whisper until life passes almost unseen. For while the world outside changes completely, the sleeper experiences the interval between descent and awakening as no more than a breath, and deep within Earth's oldest frozen soils, microbes locked in permafrost for thousands of years have demonstrated an even more startling ability to pause life, for when thawed carefully in laboratories, many awaken, move, feed, and divide as if no time has passed at all, their survival relying on biochemical tricks that protect DNA and proteins from freezing damage, stabilize their molecules against radiation, and allow enzymes to repair fractures caused by ice crystals or cosmic exposure. And some of these microbes have been revived from ice more than 30,000 years old, suggesting that life, at its smallest and most resilient scales, can outwait time itself, enduring in perfect stillness until conditions once again allow motion, growth, and breath. Life's endurance reveals itself most clearly in the moments when motion fades and the world retreats into silence. And nowhere is this quiet resilience more profound than in the phenomenon of torpor and hibernation, where biology bends the familiar rules of time, metabolism, and survival to create an ancient rhythm that has shaped countless species across millions of years. With each pause and metabolic pace, the total wear inflicted by continuous cellular activity decreases, allowing oxygen demand to fall, harmful free radicals to decline, and DNA repair enzymes to work more efficiently and without competition, restoring microscopic damage accumulated during active months, while organs that would normally age from non-stop functioning enjoy a restorative stillness, like machines powered down between heavy shifts. And even the delicate telomeres at the ends of chromosomes erode more slowly in species that experience seasonal dormancy compared with active relatives of similar size. And diet, illustrating that slowing down extends not only lifespan but also the quality of biological function, because time does not merely pass through movement. It also gathers in moments of stillness, revealing that some of nature's longest-lived creatures owe their longevity not to power or endurance but to the discipline of measured silence. Fossil burrows discovered in the rock layers of the Karoo Basin and other fossil-rich regions show that ancient reptiles, coiled within preserved tunnels, practiced forms of hibernation more than 200 million years ago. Their curled postures, tucked limbs, and the chemical signatures in surrounding soil indicating long periods of seclusion during droughts or cold seasons, suggesting that hibernation-like behavior predates mammals and flowering plants, stretching back to the early Triassic world when dinosaurs were just beginning to rise. And these ancient creatures had already mastered the secret of sleeping through hardship, proving that hibernation is no mere modern adaptation but a primordial rhythm etched into Earth's biological memory, a survival strategy older than many of the life forms that dominate the planet today. In our modern imagination, this principle inspires visions of cryogenic sleep carrying humans between the stars. And though the idea lives mostly in science fiction, each new discovery about torpor brings the dream closer to reality, inspiring scientists to imagine safer ways to slow human metabolism for weeks, months, or even years, drastically reducing food requirements and life support needs during interplanetary travel, while medical researchers have already induced short hibernation-like states in rodents, observing protective effects against injury. Though scaling these techniques to humans without harming organs or cognition remains a challenge. And space agencies envision cryosleep pods capable of lowering temperature and metabolic rate under careful automated control, briefly waking crew members for monitoring before letting them sink back into controlled stillness, a technology that could one day revolutionize not only space exploration but also medicine on Earth by enabling doctors to stabilize patients in metabolic suspension during critical transport or between complex procedures, blurring the boundary between sleep and survival and creating a pause long enough to cross gulfs of space or spans of medical vulnerability. Yet even without human intervention, nature already demonstrates this miracle each spring when billions of hidden awakenings ripple across the planet as winter loosens its grip and an entire world exhales, stirring frogs from icy tombs beneath melting snow, insects from soil chambers, mammals from dens, and microbes from frozen earth, creating a wave of revival that begins near the equator and travels northward with the warming sun, reanimating ecosystems in stages until, by midsummer, even the Arctic pulses with renewed life, forming a planetary circuit of rebirth in which every slowed heartbeat of winter returns with spring's light. Billions of tiny revivals merging into one global rhythm as hibernation ends not with a single animal's yawn but with the earth itself taking a breath. Hedgehogs, for example, cool their bodies until the temperature nearly matches the cold air surrounding their leaf-lined nests, curling tightly into balls with noses pressed to bellies and spines arranged outward like armor, their heartbeats dropping from hundreds per minute to only a few, and their breathing slowing until it becomes a faint whisper, barely disturbing the air. Sustained entirely by carefully stored fat reserves that burn with perfect efficiency during the long months of stillness. On warmer winter nights, they may briefly awaken to shift position or adjust their nests before sinking again into the quiet calm of suspended life. And when the first spring sunlight melts frost from the forest floor, their hearts quicken, their lungs reawaken, and their eyes blink open as if the long winter had passed in an instant. Their bodies preserved by a metabolic elegance that science is only beginning to understand. Within these hibernating creatures, efficiency reaches extremes rarely matched by human engineering, and perhaps the most astonishing example lies in how mammals recycle nitrogen waste to nourish their tissues throughout torpor, converting what would normally become toxic urea into building blocks for new proteins, with specialized gut microbes breaking it apart and channeling its nitrogen into the bloodstream to maintain muscle and organ mass even after months without food or movement. A feat that allows bears, bats, and ground squirrels to awaken strong and nearly unchanged despite prolonged fasting, resetting their systems smoothly when the kidneys clear residual waste and the animal steps from its den with little more loss than fat. A natural model of efficiency that doctors and engineers continue to study in hopes of mimicking its remarkable balance. Bears, in particular, maintain bone strength even during half a year of near-total immobility, whereas humans confined to bed rest or experiencing microgravity in space lose bone density rapidly, but bears preserve theirs by slowing bone-resorbing cells almost to a halt while allowing bone-building cells to keep working steadily, cycling calcium in a closed loop between blood and bone, conserving minerals and keeping marrow productive even in deep winter. A biological masterpiece that could hold clues for preventing osteoporosis in people, in the dens where bears lie motionless through cold months. Their bodies quietly rebuild, renovate, and maintain themselves, hiding not decay but a durable equilibrium that carries them safely through the season. As metabolism drops nearly to zero, time perception itself seems to distort, brain cells firing so rarely that seconds feel stretched, the rhythm of experience dissolving into a haze of near-timelessness, where days may pass with only a few heartbeats and shallow breaths. The brain's clocks drifting towards stasis until the border between sleep and death becomes thin yet never fully crossed, leaving awareness muted but present enough that, upon waking, the animal experiences the entire season as if skipped, a brief blink between autumn and spring, demonstrating that biology can manipulate time by slowing life to the point where months pass almost unnoticed. The phenomenon extends even to microscopic life forms such as microbes trapped in ancient Arctic permafrost, which have been revived after thousands of frozen years, reawakening when carefully thawed in laboratories, moving, feeding, and dividing as if no time had passed, their survival enabled by biochemical defenses that protect DNA and proteins from freezing damage and by enzymes capable of repairing molecules fractured by radiation and ice, with some specimens revived from ice older than human civilization, challenging scientific understanding of life's limits and hinting that frozen moons or distant planets might harbor dormant organisms waiting for warmth to return. Each drop of thawed permafrost becomes a message from deep time, reminding us that the greatest strength of life lies not merely in growth or motion but in its refusal to disappear. Before an animal slips into torpor, a remarkable transformation unfolds within its bloodstream, a complete shift in blood chemistry that raises protective sugars, adjusts salt balance, restructures proteins to prevent clotting or dehydration, and alters the way oxygen binds to hemoglobin so that tissues receive just enough fuel to survive at minimal metabolic cost, while fatty acids rearrange to keep blood fluid even at low temperatures and the immune system quiets to conserve energy, producing a finely orchestrated metamorphosis that reverses itself in perfect order when warmth returns, allowing the body to accelerate its heartbeat, resume clotting, and reactivate normal function without shock. In frogs capable of freezing solid during winter, this metamorphosis reaches astonishing extremes. With their hearts stopping, lungs ceasing activity, and ice forming within their bodies while they remain alive, protected by vast floods of glucose and urea released before freezing, acting as natural antifreeze to draw water out of cells and prevent lethal ice crystals from forming inside tissues, restricting ice formation to safe spaces between cells so that, when spring warmth arrives, the ice melts smoothly, sugar levels drop, and the heart begins beating again, often allowing the frog to hop away within hours as though death had never approached, inspiring research into cryopreservation and organ storage but far surpassing any human technology in precision. Scientists are exploring whether controlled torpor could one day revolutionize emergency medicine, enabling doctors to cool patients rapidly and induce metabolic silence during catastrophic injuries or cardiac arrest, slowing cellular death and providing critical time for treatment. With colonies of bats entering group hibernation where the slowing of one individual's metabolism spreads like a signal through the cluster, synchronizing heartbeats and breathing patterns across hundreds of animals hanging together in winter caves, their combined body heat forming a protective microclimate just warm enough to prevent freezing, allowing them to conserve energy more effectively than if they faced the cold alone. And when spring breezes drift into the cave, the awakening spreads back through the colony as one stirs, then another, until the entire group reanimates in waves, proving that even in stillness, life moves in unity. The planet itself participates in this grand rhythm as every winter quiets rivers, forests, and creatures, allowing nutrients to settle, roots to mend, water to gather underground, and ecosystems to reset during this essential pause before the sun's return ignites the explosion of green and song known as spring, demonstrating that hibernation is not an interruption of life's flow but a vital part of its cycle, a universal pattern that prevents chaos from burning the world too quickly and makes spring feel like resurrection rather than routine, Because stillness is not the opposite of life but the method through which life gathers the strength to begin again. It is an uneasy partnership, but an enduring one, shaped by shared dependence on patience. For even life that lives upon life knows when it is wiser to wait, and within the vast network of creatures that rest through winter, the intricate choreography of survival extends to rhythms so subtle and ancient that modern science still struggles to fully comprehend them, revealing a world where movement pauses not from weakness but from strategy, and where every heartbeat, every breath, every molecule learns the language of stillness, because when an animal's heart slows to only a few beats each minute, the rhythm must entirely reorganize to remain functional. Electrical impulses stretch far apart, sending gentle waves of contraction across muscle fibers that move in slow, deliberate pulses, pushing larger amounts of blood with each stroke to compensate for the dramatic reduction in speed. While ion channels within cardiac cells shift to prioritize stability over speed, ensuring each contraction remains smooth, dependable, and free from the chaotic surges that might otherwise occur at such low frequencies. And even the blood itself thickens slightly to flow in calm, measured currents that avoid pooling or clot formation, while in some species the shape of the heartbeat visibly changes when recorded, flattening into soft, rounded curves that resemble the quiet profile of deep sleep, yet when warmth returns, these same hearts accelerate effortlessly, rising from the winter tempo to the alert quickness of active life, proving that a system built for motion can also master rest and that the heart itself can become fluent and quiet. Far to the north, where seas freeze into jagged landscapes of floating glass, Arctic fish rewrite the chemistry of survival by producing natural antifreeze proteins that attach to forming ice crystals and stop them from expanding, preventing their blood from solidifying even when the ocean turns slushy around them. And these proteins, fine-tuned over millions of years, allowed the fish to glide through waters colder than the freezing point of their own internal fluids, enabling them to hunt, reproduce, and navigate a realm where almost no other vertebrate can endure, a feat that inspired scientists to apply similar molecular structures to preserve frozen foods, extend the shelf life of certain crops, and stabilize human tissues. Though none of the artificial versions yet match the elegance of what evolution achieved in these creatures, whose veins carry liquid life through liquid ice. As researchers continue to uncover these natural miracles, the field of hibernation science grows closer to unlocking the long-imagined possibility of suspended animation. For every discovery about how life slows safely brings us nearer to understanding how humans might pause metabolism in a controlled torpor. Whether for emergency medical situations or long-duration space travel, and already laboratory trials have cooled small mammals using specific gas mixtures or metabolic triggers, inducing deep torpor from which the animals later awaken unharmed, with preserved organs and intact cognition, a result that suggests profound future applications. Trauma patients stabilized for long transport, surgeons given extended time to operate with unparalleled precision, astronauts traveling to distant planets while consuming only a fraction of the food and oxygen used by fully awake bodies. Yet the greatest technical challenge lies not in inducing torpor but in reversing it, warming tissues in perfect sequence so that biochemical reactions regain balance without shock, a process that nature has performed flawlessly countless times across millions of years while humanity is only beginning to grasp its complexities. Not every hibernator commits to uninterrupted sleep throughout the cold months, however, for some creatures, like chipmunks and certain mice, live by a deliberate schedule of sleeping deeply for days or weeks, before briefly awakening to eat, drink, and restore vital levels of energy. And these short awakenings also allow them to inspect their underground stores of seeds, nuts, and berries, removing mold or decay that could turn deadly if consumed later, proving that even rest must be strategic, a careful compromise between conserving energy and maintaining vigilance. And through this careful rhythm they endure winters that would otherwise exhaust them completely, demonstrating that survival is not merely about shutting down but about managing cycles of rest and readiness. In some scientific studies, deep torpor has shown the remarkable ability to suppress cancer cell growth, because when metabolism slows dramatically, every biological process, including harmful ones, enters a near standstill. And tumors that normally expand quickly are forced into inactivity when deprived of the energy and oxygen needed for rapid division, while normal cells shift into protective modes that resist damage. And laboratory models replicating these conditions with cooling or chemical induction have demonstrated reduced inflammation, slowed tumor progression, and fewer mutations, suggesting that if researchers can one day safely apply these principles to human medicine, patients might enter controlled torpor to temporarily halt the advance of disease, giving doctors time to treat conditions that normally progress too quickly. An idea bold yet firmly rooted in nature's winter lessons, where rest is often the body's greatest defense. For animals sleeping beneath the soil, the first signal of spring is not sight or sound but scent, for as frost softens and the earth warms, ancient microbes awaken, releasing faint chemical signatures that travel upward through thawing soil. And hibernators possess delicate receptors capable of detecting these subtle gases and organic compounds long before the temperature above ground becomes comfortable, triggering hormonal shifts in the brain, particularly within the pineal gland, that prepare the body for reawakening. As heart rate rises, blood warms, metabolic reactions accelerate, and muscles regain tone in a sequence so smooth that the eventual emergence appears effortless, guided by the fragrance of living earth serving as nature's most gentle alarm clock, reminding every sleeper that the world above has returned to life. Hibernation is one of nature's most intricate strategies, a sophisticated choreography of biology, chemistry, and time that allows creatures to endure conditions that would otherwise prove lethal. Every pause in activity reduces the cumulative wear inflicted by continuous metabolism, allowing organisms to preserve their tissues and organs over months of inactivity, demonstrating a form of resilience that surpasses the simple endurance of harsh weather. During torpor, oxygen consumption drops dramatically, the production of damaging free radicals slows, and DNA repair enzymes operate with fewer interruptions, allowing the body to maintain integrity at a microscopic level while the external world freezes or dries. Organs that would normally age through constant activity rest as if in an invisible workshop, repairing themselves with care and precision, and even telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of chromosomes, erode more slowly in species that experience seasonal dormancy. This slowdown of life's machinery means that hibernating species often outlive their active relatives despite having similar body sizes and diets, illustrating that longevity is not merely a product of energy expenditure or nutrition but of judiciously timed stillness. Fossil evidence demonstrates that this practice is ancient, with skeletons of reptiles from more than 200 million years ago found curled in burrows that suggest deliberate dormancy during inhospitable seasons. These findings reveal that hibernation is not exclusive to mammals but stretches across evolutionary history, with modern reptiles, certain lizards, and crocodilians echoing the same patterns, demonstrating a lineage of life that has understood the advantage of waiting. Beyond the biological, these pauses teach broader truths about the nature of time itself. It is not only marked by motion but also accumulated in moments of quiet, and the longest-lived creatures owe part of their existence to their mastery of measured silence. This knowledge carries implications far beyond ecology. If human metabolism could one day be safely slowed for extended periods, it could enable interplanetary travel without the burdens of constant life support, and medical science might stabilize critically ill patients for hours, days, or longer, buying time for repair and recovery in ways that were once the domain of fiction. The biochemical elegance of hibernation is staggering. Animals prepare for months of inactivity by reconfiguring blood chemistry, raising sugars to protect cells, adjusting salt concentrations, and altering proteins to prevent clotting, all while ensuring oxygen continues to bind to hemoglobin sufficiently to sustain vital organs. Fatty acids reorganize to keep blood flowing when chilled, and the immune system quiets, conserving energy for survival while maintaining readiness. In creatures that experience freezing temperatures, such as certain frogs, the liver releases glucose and urea to act as natural antifreeze, drawing water away from cells to prevent ice crystals from rupturing delicate tissues, allowing the animal to survive for months in a frozen state before thawing gradually as spring arrives. During this process, the return of warmth triggers a slow, precise awakening, heartbeats regain their rhythm, breathing resumes, circulation restores, and muscles flex as the once rigid body regains function. Hibernation also reshapes the microscopic ecosystems within these animals. Gut microbiomes adapt to the absence of food, shifting from species dependent on continuous intake to those that feed on mucus and internal secretions, maintaining intestinal health and preventing infection. When the animal awakens, the microbial landscape resets, allowing digestion to resume efficiently, a testament to the interdependence of macro and micro life. Even the smallest organisms, such as Antarctic midges, exploit sugars and alcohols to avoid freezing, surviving frozen solid within soil for months, demonstrating that extreme survival relies on chemistry as much as structural biology. Larger hibernators, like bears, experience periodic arousals during deep winter, flexing muscles, adjusting position, and slightly raising body temperature to maintain tissue health, a subtle rhythm that conserves energy while preventing atrophy. These awakenings are brief but critical, illustrating the fine balance between stasis and vitality. Hibernation provides insights into cancer suppression, as slowed metabolism halts tumor progression in certain mammals, reduces inflammation, and allows cellular repair to proceed with minimal interference, suggesting that future medical applications could exploit torpor-like states to protect human tissues during illness or surgery. The phenomenon extends to group behaviors. Bats synchronize their torpor, collectively lowering energy expenditure while maintaining minimal warmth and safety, demonstrating that even in stillness, life can coordinate with subtle intelligence. Birds such as the common purwheel exhibit true hibernation, pausing metabolic activity for months, while chipmunks and mice use scheduled awakenings to maintain energy and food stores, balancing deep rest with necessary vigilance. Heart physiology adapts impressively. Electrical impulses stretch, contractions lengthen, ion channels favor stability over speed, and blood thickens to ensure continuous circulation, allowing hibernators to endure heart rates as low as a few beats per minute without organ damage, then resume full activity seamlessly when conditions improve. Arctic fish produce antifreeze proteins to survive sub-zero waters, blocking ice crystal growth and preserving cellular function, an evolutionary masterpiece that informs human applications in tissue preservation, food storage, and agriculture. The implications of artificially inducing torpor in humans are profound. Emergency medicine could stabilize patients after trauma, astronauts could reduce metabolic needs and protect against radiation, and long-duration surgeries could be undertaken with organs preserved in metabolic stasis. Brain activity during hibernation mirrors deep meditation, maintaining essential functions while minimizing energy consumption, suggesting that consciousness can persist in states of profound stillness and that cognitive integrity is preserved despite near-total suspension of action. Animals return to the same hibernation sites annually, showing memory, spatial awareness, and environmental sensitivity, with bears selecting dens that drain meltwater, bats memorizing cave acoustics, and turtles following chemical and magnetic cues. Hibernation, therefore, is not merely a physiological adaptation but a complex interplay between memory, environment, social coordination, and chemical mastery. Suspended metabolic states allow cells to survive prolonged oxygen deprivation, chemical reactions that normally aged tissues slow dramatically, and heart and brain function continue at minimal rates, effectively placing organisms outside conventional time. This suspension can extend lifespan, conserve energy, and allow life to endure through extreme environmental pressures. The smallest marsupials and amphibians illustrate the meticulous timing required. They emerge gradually as ice melts, sugars stabilize cell membranes, blood flow returns in a controlled sequence, and the entire body awakens without shock. Even the gut microbiome adjusts, shifting composition during torpor to maintain host health and rebalance rapidly when feeding resumes. Bears and other mammals maintain muscle tone and circulation through short arousals, preventing damage while conserving energy. Space exploration and emergency medicine can learn from these rhythms, applying controlled torpor to preserve tissues, reduce metabolic stress, and protect the body from radiation or oxygen deprivation. Hibernating brains demonstrate that slow, synchronized electrical activity preserves neural structure, potentially offering insights into protecting human consciousness in trauma or surgery. Timing, chemistry, and rhythm are central. hibernators synchronize physiological, microbial, and environmental signals to emerge when conditions are favorable, with scent, temperature, and light serving as natural cues. The body reorganizes, blood chemistry shifts, muscles regain tone, and the heart accelerates seamlessly, illustrating an extraordinary biological fluency. Even parasites adjust to host torpor, entering suspended states to survive alongside their hibernating hosts, exemplifying the broad ecological and evolutionary consequences of these adaptations. Hibernation is thus a profound form of time management, turning survival into measured patience, transforming the harshness of winter or extreme cold into an arena of controlled energy, renewal, and longevity. Every frozen frog, every dormant bear, every subterranean bat demonstrates that life can endure extreme conditions through careful orchestration of chemistry, circulation, metabolism, and behavior. This process protects organs, preserves tissue, balances microbial communities, and prepares organisms to resume activity with full functionality, showing that stillness is not passive but an active state of maintenance and readiness. From Antarctic midges to polar fish, from pythons and turtles to bears and marsupials, hibernation reflects evolution's mastery of survival through suspension, demonstrating that life is not simply a series of continuous actions but a delicate dance between activity and rest. Even in frozen states, life persists. Metabolic rates slow, biochemical antifreeze protect cells, tissues are preserved, and precise awakening sequences ensure survival. Hibernators recycle nitrogen, conserve energy, maintain muscle and bone, and support microbiomes, reflecting a closed-loop system that engineers and medical science still strive to emulate. The rhythm of hibernation coordinates physiology, environment, and social behavior, exemplifying a form of natural engineering that allows survival at the edge of extremes. Group torpor demonstrates collective energy conservation, periodic arousals sustain tissue health, and chemical adjustments enable creatures to withstand months of fasting. In mammals, birds, amphibians, fish, and even insects, hibernation balances the preservation of life against the demands of a harsh environment, revealing lessons about patience, timing, and the elegance of biological adaptation. Human applications, from organ preservation to space travel, could harness these strategies, translating nature's rhythms into medicine, engineering, and survival beyond Earth. Across the planet, hibernation shapes ecosystems, stabilizes populations, and maintains the cycles of energy, nutrients, and life. Every deep winter, animals practice restraint, conserving resources while ecosystems reset, awaiting spring's revival. The lessons extend beyond survival. They teach efficiency, balance, and the strategic use of energy, illustrating that life's endurance depends as much on knowing when to wait as on knowing how to act. Through hibernation, life demonstrates the remarkable capacity to bend time, preserve itself, and emerge renewed, revealing that stillness is a vital part of vitality, an integral thread in the tapestry of existence that spans species, climates, and millennia. It is a testament to the power of patience, the intelligence of biochemistry, and the intricate interdependence of life at every scale. Hibernation is not mere inactivity but a symphony of coordinated systems, metabolic, neurological, cardiovascular, microbial, and ecological, working in unison to allow life to persist, to survive, and to flourish, even when the external world imposes the harshest of challenges. From ancient reptiles curled in fossilized burrows to contemporary ground squirrels and bears, the same principles apply: measured pause, strategic conservation, and precise awakening. This process highlights the extraordinary resilience of life, the interweaving of organism and environment, and the capacity of natural systems to preserve function, integrity, and consciousness through deliberate stillness. The heart, the brain, the gut, the microbes, the skeletal system, and even dependent parasites synchronize with the rhythm of dormancy, demonstrating that life's continuity depends on cooperation, timing, and chemical precision. The repeated cycles of torpor and awakening, the recycling of internal resources, the preservation of organs and tissues, the fine-tuned chemical antifreeze, and the ability to return seamlessly to activity illustrate the genius of evolution in balancing survival, longevity, and efficiency. Hibernation is thus both a practical solution to seasonal adversity and a profound demonstration of life's capacity to master its own temporality, turning stillness into a tool, a strategy, and an art form that transcends species, scales, and eras. In the frozen stillness beneath snow, ice, and earth, life endures, recalibrates, repairs, and waits, proving that the truest strength lies not in constant action but in knowing when to pause, when to conserve, and when to emerge renewed, ready to continue the intricate, interconnected dance that defines existence. Every frozen frog, every bat in its cave, every bear in its den, every tiny insect in Antarctic soil, every bird perched silently in a cliffside crevice, and every marsupial beneath alpine snow participates in this grand testament to survival, resilience, and the beauty of biological patience. Hibernation, in its many forms, turns winter, cold, famine, and stillness into instruments of endurance, weaving together chemistry, physiology, ecology, and evolution into a single, elegant strategy. It teaches that life's continuity depends on synchronization between internal and external rhythms, on chemical and physical adaptations, on collective behaviors, on precise timing, and on the ability to transform inactivity into opportunity. In this deep and ancient practice, life preserves itself, a profound wisdom, and a quiet immortality encoded in the rhythms of the natural world, waiting for the return of warmth, light, and motion to resume the ongoing symphony of life. A thick blanket of snow or soil traps still air, keeping the world beneath more stable than the brutal wind outside, allowing hibernating creatures to slow heartbeat and breathing to a whisper, relying on fat reserves to carry them through weeks when nectar and insects vanish, and on rare warm spells, some stir, grooming frost from whiskers and drinking meltwater trickling along stone, then drop again into silence, waiting for spring to soften the drifts so alpine flowers can open within days. And tiny marsupials rise into sudden abundance, their timing exquisite, proof that survival in extreme environments depends not on brute strength but on patience perfectly tuned to seasonal clocks, while certain bacteria hibernate inside salt crystals for geological ages, trapped within pockets of brine in ancient salt beds buried deep underground, where almost no water movement and few nutrients reduce metabolism to near zero, stabilized by protective sugars and proteins that preserve membranes and DNA, and salt itself blocks damaging enzymes, allowing some cells to revive and divide once crystals dissolve, demonstrating that dormancy can be written into minerals as well as tissues, sheltering life across millennia, perhaps even on other worlds with evaporated seas, proving that these patient travelers can await a single drop of water to restart their chemistry. While melatonin synchronizes hibernation with the shortening days as the pineal gland responds to signals from eyes and deep brain sensors, releasing extended pulses that shift appetite, convert white fat to brown fat for energy bursts, and retune brain clock genes to seasonal rhythms so sleep, hormone release, and temperature drift into a winter cadence, showing how finely tuned natural cues are, for artificial light can disturb melatonin timing and delay entry into torpor, highlighting the elegance of this biological calendar, where darkness becomes instruction for waiting and waking, and in laboratories, researchers have induced hibernation in mammals that do not naturally enter torpor, carefully controlling temperature and chemical cues to slow heartbeat, breathing, and metabolism without injury, lowering oxygen demand, quieting inflammation, and preserving organs, then returning animals to full activity with memory and coordination intact. A repeatable protocol revealing the remarkable flexibility of mammalian physiology, suggesting vast implications for medicine, allowing surgeons to protect tissues during operations, rescuers to stabilize trauma patients, and providing a scientific doorway into deliberate, reversible stillness, while parasites mirror the seasonal rhythm of their hosts to survive, ticks, fleas, intestinal worms, and protozoa synchronizing development, feeding, and reproduction to protect both themselves and the host, ensuring that when the hibernator awakens, the entire ecosystem of species within and on it rises in coordination, while weather cues like warmth, cold, barometric pressure, humidity, and snow depth fine-tune entry into torpor, demonstrating flexible precision. Enter too early and reserves may deplete before spring, enter too late and storms may waste energy, teaching that survival depends on reading air and earth, not calendars, with desert snails sealing their shells with hardened mucus and calcium to trap moisture, slowing metabolism, reducing heartbeats to long intervals, and nearly eliminating oxygen demand, creating self-contained humid microclimates that persist for months, opening only after rare rain to feed before heat returns, a living proof that stillness and architecture can outlast extreme drought. While bears emerge in spring with perfectly timed newborns, having spent months in near silence while embryos gestated and cubs nursed, stepping into daylight only when snowpack softens and early vegetation allows travel and access to rich nutrition, with hormones long prearranged to ensure birth coincides with optimal survival conditions, demonstrating the body's continuous planning even in torpor, while cryogenic preservation pushes this concept further, aiming to halt life entirely by cooling tissues to deep cold where chemistry nearly ceases, with ice crystals posing a danger unless protective agents shield water or guide freezing into vitrification. And researchers have successfully preserved embryos and small tissues for years before revival, drawing lessons from frogs that survive freezing and fish with antifreeze proteins to improve cryoprotectant formulations, extending the dream to larger organs and entire bodies, while hibernating amphibians thaw gradually to prevent cellular rupture, using sugars and alcohols as natural antifreeze to stabilize membranes and control osmotic pressure, with blood flowing slowly to vital organs, heartbeats resuming rhythm and breathing returning in a carefully orchestrated sequence that ensures survival, as the gut microbiome also transforms, shifting from species reliant on constant food intake to those consuming mucus and internal secretions, reducing digestive acids while producing compounds that prevent infection and maintain intestinal integrity, ready to rebalance rapidly when feeding resumes, a process mirrored in Antarctic midges that replace body water with sugar-alcohol mixtures, remaining frozen solid yet alive until summer warmth restores mobility, demonstrating that even the smallest creatures survive through intricate biochemical strategies rather than sheer strength, while bears periodically rouse to stretch, flex muscles, and adjust posture, maintaining tissue health during deep torpor, with brief awakenings increasing heart rate, circulation, and mild awareness without breaking the energy-saving state, showing that life's rhythms balance stillness and subtle activity. While astronauts might one day exploit induced torpor to reduce metabolic rates, lower radiation damage, and prolong repair periods during interplanetary travel, and hibernating brains display synchronized slow-wave activity akin to deep meditation, preserving emotion, memory, and consciousness while consuming minimal energy, offering insights for human neurological protection, trauma care, and surgery, while animals return to the same hibernation sites annually, bears selecting dens with specific slopes, bats memorizing acoustic signatures, turtles following chemical and magnetic cues, illustrating how memory, environment, and survival interconnect. As heart physiology adapts, ion channels favor stability, muscle contractions stretch, blood thickens, and the heart functions at a few beats per minute without damage, resuming full activity seamlessly, while Arctic fish carry antifreeze proteins to prevent ice crystal growth, enabling survival in sub-zero seas, inspiring medical and food preservation applications. And artificial torpor studies demonstrate protection against radiation and inflammation, while hibernation suppresses tumor growth and inflammation in mammals, allowing repair without interference, hinting at potential medical applications for disease stabilization, emergency care, and space travel. And animals like chipmunks and mice show strategic awakenings to manage energy, maintain food caches, and prevent starvation, revealing that survival is not continuous activity but a balance of stillness and vigilance, while heart and organ systems operate in synchronization, conserving energy yet maintaining function, demonstrating that hibernation integrates cardiovascular, neurological, metabolic, microbial, ecological, and behavioral systems, creating a holistic survival strategy that bends the rules of time, slows cellular aging, and preserves life through months of inactivity, as tiny marsupials beneath alpine snow exploit insulation, slowing heartbeat and respiration while fat reserves sustain them until precise awakening, and ancient salt-trapped bacteria demonstrate metabolic dormancy can persist across millennia, showing that life can endure geological spans by awaiting minimal environmental triggers to reactivate. While desert snails, pythons, frogs, amphibians, birds, bats, insects, and fish alike employ analogous strategies of metabolic suppression, antifreeze chemistry, microbiome adjustment, selective arousal, and precise timing to survive extreme cold, drought, or nutrient scarcity, illustrating that evolution has developed an array of mechanisms to turn stillness into survival, slow down aging, manage energy budgets, coordinate host-parasite interactions, synchronize ecological communities, preserve cognitive and physiological integrity, and allow life to endure through environmental adversity, demonstrating that patience, precision, and biochemical mastery are as vital to survival as motion, strength, or aggression. And that these principles could inform human medicine, space exploration, organ preservation, and the design of sustainable energy systems, while also offering philosophical insights. Life's continuity depends not on constant action but on understanding when to pause, conserve, and emerge renewed, as hibernation turns stillness into a strategy, suspended metabolism into a form of longevity, and environmental cues into precise instruction, creating a symphony of coordinated biological processes across scales from molecules to ecosystems, showing that life's endurance, efficiency, and timing are intertwined in a dance of resilience, patience, and exquisite synchronization that transforms harsh conditions into opportunities for preservation, repair, and renewal, making hibernation one of the most remarkable demonstrations of nature's ability to bend time, master energy, and harmonize complex systems in order to sustain life, bridging physiology, ecology, biochemistry, evolution, and even potential applications in technology and medicine, proving that true survival is measured in the intelligence of restraint, the elegance of timing, and the wisdom encoded in biology to wait, to conserve, and to thrive in the quiet interlude between seasons, where every frozen frog, every subterranean bat, every marsupial under alpine snow, every Antarctic midge, every desert snail, and every bird or fish in extreme climates participates in this grand, unified testament to life's capacity to endure, adapt, and emerge renewed through deep stillness, illustrating that patience, chemistry, environmental attunement, and coordinated rhythms can allow life to exist on the edge of impossibility, creating a tapestry of survival that extends from microscopic organisms trapped in salt for millennia to the largest mammals navigating the cycle of seasons, revealing that the mastery of time and energy is as vital to life as strength or speed, and that in the slow, deliberate pauses of hibernation, there exists a profound vitality, wisdom, and quiet immortality that transcends species, scales, and eras, waiting for warmth, moisture, and the return of abundance to resume the ongoing, intricate symphony of life. The ethical questions surrounding the manipulation of life are immense, yet the science itself is clear. If we can pause life without breaking it, time becomes a landscape to traverse, and hibernation whispers the secrets that cryonics seeks to speak aloud, for the smallest heartbeats on Earth belong to creatures asleep for survival, whose hearts in deep torpor become metronomes set to the slowest possible tempo. As hummingbirds that normally beat faster than any mammal in flight can drop to a faint pulse at night to conserve energy, bats can hang for hours between breaths with hearts ticking just enough to nourish a cooling brain, and ground squirrels allow minutes to stretch between beats during mid-hibernation yet still deliver oxygen to vital organs, illustrating that this shrinkage of rhythm is not weakness but mastery of margin, making each beat count by pumping fuller volumes of blood with slower strokes and maintaining tissues at the edge of silence without crossing it, so that when warmth returns, the metronome winds up again and complex behavior resumes within minutes, teaching a simple yet profound lesson. Survival depends not only on how fast the heart can race but on how gently it can wait, while Arctic ground squirrels approach freezing like no other mammal, enduring darkness and sub-zero temperatures by surrendering to cold in deliberate cycles where body temperature drops below water's freezing point without ice forming inside cells, briefly awakening every few weeks to raise temperature through shivering, flush waste from the blood, and slip back into stillness, during which heartbeat may fall to a few beats per minute and breathing nearly stops, with brain activity fading but never vanishing, creating a winter-long pattern of controlled dying and returning that conserves energy unlike any other strategy in the animal kingdom, until spring sunlight warms the soil and the squirrel wakes fully, resuming life as if months of near death had passed in a single dream, inspiring ancient myths of death and rebirth, as humans long before understanding biology noticed how certain animals vanished with winter and reappeared when the world grew green again, appearing to die and resurrect, with snakes, bears, and frogs becoming symbols of cycles and renewal, woven into cultural stories connecting them to gods of the underworld or changing seasons. Interpreting hibernation as a miniature version of cosmic death and return, possibly celebrated in cave art and seasonal rituals, yet the reality remains both simple and profound. A heartbeat slowed to near silence, a breath waiting for warmth, a life folding inward and blooming again, providing early storytellers with proof that endings are not final and that within sleep life rehearses the art of beginning again, while microscopic rotifers in ponds, moss, and soil survive drought by releasing protective sugars, curling into beads, and losing nearly all body water, halting metabolism entirely, allowing them to endure radiation, heat, and decades of desiccation, then rehydrating and repairing damage once water returns, demonstrating that dormancy can border on immortality, and showing that hibernation need not involve cold or heartbeat but can exist as pure stillness, a moment when life steps outside time, waiting for a drop of water to recall movement. With specialized proteins in many hibernators preventing ice crystal damage that would otherwise slice cell membranes, including antifreeze and heat shock proteins that halt ice spread, stabilize enzymes, and preserve tissues, forming a biochemical armor that allows frogs, insects, and fish to cool near freezing without rupture, inspiring human applications in organ preservation and crop frost resistance, all part of a molecular ballet maintaining stability during winter's long sleep, where molecules teach matter to stay calm until warmth returns, and the precision of spring awakening ensures pollination cycles align, with bees, bats, and birds emerging as flowers bloom, synchronized so closely that even a few days' shift can disrupt ecosystems, while species rely on soil warmth, day length, and vegetation scent to time their emergence, part of a symphony rehearsed by evolution over millions of years, illustrating that hibernation shapes not only individual survival but the renewal of forests, fields, and entire food webs, as each sleeper that wakes on time integrates into a grand rhythm sustaining life's return, supported internally by brown fat that acts as a furnace hidden between muscles and around organs, burning energy directly into heat to raise body temperature, quickening breathing and warming the heart and brain first, a spark that enables survival and life's return, while human infants rely on brown fat for warmth before shivering, proving that the first sign of awakening begins not with thought but with fire rekindled deep within flesh, and cryogenic technology could one day extend human lifespan by applying the lessons of hibernation, cooling tissues under protective conditions to preserve organs, embryos, and potentially whole bodies, avoiding ice formation that would rupture cells through the use of cryoprotective compounds inspired by naturally freeze-tolerant frogs, fish, and insects, allowing water molecules to remain in glass-like states, and enabling months-long storage of human organs and blood, pausing biological decay to restart life without loss. Though this frontier is rich with promise and ethical debate, echoing Earth's oldest winter strategy, the art of waiting for warmth, as nematodes in Antarctic ice have revived after more than 50 years, their metabolism dormant, protected by sugars and proteins while permafrost locked them in stillness, reawakening to movement and feeding as though no time had passed, genetically adapted over millennia to cycles of freezing and thawing, turning dormancy into a survival guarantee, while the smallest heartbeats on Earth in deep torpor belong to creatures that slow their hearts to the faintest pulses, such as hummingbirds at night, bats hanging for hours, and ground squirrels stretching minutes between beats, demonstrating mastery over margin and energy conservation. Arctic ground squirrels enduring extreme cold, lowering body temperature below freezing without intracellular ice. These nematodes blur the line between life and suspension, proving that the boundary of endurance stretches far beyond what was once thought possible, and their revival is not only a marvel of biology, but a reminder that frozen landscapes are not lifeless, They are vaults of sleeping potential, waiting patiently beneath the ice, and the body of a hibernator can safely cool to near ambient temperature. As when an animal enters deep torpor, its internal thermostat loosens, allowing body temperature to drift close to the environment rather than fighting to maintain warmth. So a ground squirrel may cool to just above freezing while a bat in a cave can match the chill of surrounding stone, saving enormous energy but requiring molecular precision to prevent harm. As enzymes controlling metabolism adapt to low temperatures, membranes remain flexible despite the cold. Blood circulation slows to a crawl but never stops completely, allowing oxygen to reach vital organs, and as conditions improve, small bursts of warmth from brown fat or shivering gently lift temperature, enabling the animal to move effortlessly between stillness and life. Illustrating elegant simplicity, survival comes not from resisting the environment, but from becoming part of it until the world turns kind once more, and the line between hibernation and estivation is often blurred. Hibernation protecting against cold while estivation guards against heat and drought, yet both sharing the philosophy of conservation through stillness, as frogs, snails, and insects in deserts enter dry sleep during scorching months, sealing moisture within their bodies and slowing metabolism nearly to nothing, with some species performing both depending on the season, sleeping through winter's chill or summer's burn with equal grace, employing underlying biochemistry that is strikingly similar, shifting energy stores, increasing cellular repair, heightening stress responses before entry, and in a changing climate, these twin strategies may overlap more often, creating flexible survival systems that allow life to persist wherever extremes collide, whether beneath snow or sand, with the idea remaining the same: to endure. Sometimes one must disappear for a while, waiting for the world to balance itself again, as seen in killifish embryos pausing growth until rains refill their pools in the fleeting puddles of African savannas, where annual killifish race against time, adults living fast, maturing, breeding, and dying within weeks, while their embryos perform a miracle of patience, halting development as water evaporates, locking cells in suspended animation, remaining dormant in hardened mud for months or even years, motionless yet perfectly preserved, awakening within days once rain returns, completing development and hatching, with genes controlling metabolism, DNA repair, and stress responses switching into hibernation-like states, demonstrating that vertebrates can effectively stop time, transforming drought into a passageway between generations, reminding us that survival is not only about endurance but about knowing when to pause, and hibernation could guide new medical treatments for long surgeries, as hospitals face challenges in protecting organs while blood flow or oxygen supply is limited, a problem nature has already solved in hibernators whose tissues endure months of near stillness without damage, with studies of ground squirrels and bears revealing molecular pathways that suppress inflammation, reduce oxygen demand, and prevent cell death, and by mimicking these processes, doctors hope to create hibernation medicine, temporarily slowing metabolism to shield patients during trauma or complex surgery, with cooling techniques already applied in cardiac and brain procedures as early steps, aiming to induce controlled torpor safely in humans, potentially revolutionizing emergency care, space travel, and critical medicine, illustrating that hibernation is not just an animal curiosity but a frontier for human healing, with early humans possibly practicing shallow hibernation during ice ages, as evidence from prehistoric skeletons in caves shows seasonal growth interruptions similar to those in hibernating mammals, dense habitation patterns in cold caves suggesting reduced activity and body temperature for weeks or months, relying on stored fat and communal heat, allowing survival through scarcity without constant food intake, and hinting that latent hibernation ability may persist in human biology, a relic of adaptation to glacial hardship, with potential to unlock methods to slow metabolism or protect the body from extreme conditions, echoing ancient survival strategies, and long torpor phases protect organs from oxygen loss. As oxygen use falls to a fraction of normal levels, blood flow slows dramatically. Yet organs do not decay because cells switch to survival metabolism, preventing harmful byproducts, stabilizing membranes, intensifying antioxidant systems, and increasing waste recycling efficiency, with studies on hibernating hamsters, bats, and bears showing hearts and brains remain unscarred despite conditions that would normally cause damage, offering insights for humans in heart attacks, strokes, or transplants where interrupted circulation threatens tissues, revealing nature's blueprint for resilience in slowed breath and sleeping cells that refuse to die, with bears appearing in folklore as symbols of renewal after winter sleep, across cultures symbolizing the return of life, sacred in Norse legend, teachers of healing and endurance in Native American traditions, and harbingers of good fortune in Japan. Myths arising from awe at animals seemingly dying each winter only to rise again, leaner yet alive, with the biological truth deepening the myth as bears enter controlled torpor, balancing energy and life through months of stillness, proof that survival can mean surrender as much as struggle, their rhythm mirroring the cycle of nature where endings are preludes to renewal, winter quiet being the breath before awakening, and communal hibernation dens stabilizing microclimates underground. As ground squirrels, snakes, and bats form colonies in burrows, caves, or crevices, maintaining steady temperatures and moisture, combined body heat of dozens or hundreds maintaining environments just above freezing even when air outside is far colder, walls absorbing and releasing heat slowly as natural insulation, minimal air movement keeping oxygen levels sufficient without energy loss, forming small ecosystems of cooperation where microbes recycle waste and predators are deterred by numbers. And when spring arrives, mass stirring fills chambers with motion and warmth, exemplifying survival through shared stillness, while lower body temperature could protect human tissues from trauma, as cooling slows chemical processes that cause injury, with therapeutic hypothermia applied in cardiac arrest or severe trauma to reduce brain and organ damage, mirroring hibernation. Neurons release fewer excitatory signals, inflammation decreases, blood vessels tighten just enough to preserve oxygen, and deeper metabolic suppression could one day protect patients during surgeries, accidents, or long-distance space flight, using the body's enzymes and hormones as guides, turning evolution's natural strategies into human applications, learning to buy time not with speed but with the careful art of slowing down, with stored fat used as fuel and internal insulation, molecular adaptations preventing ice damage, antifreeze proteins stabilizing membranes, stress response systems maintaining balance, brown fat igniting initial warmth upon arousal, synchronization with ecosystems ensuring pollination cycles and food web stability, organisms surviving extreme temperatures, dehydration, and low oxygen by entering states of torpor, estivation, or anhydrobiosis, with Arctic ground squirrels enduring sub-zero conditions without freezing cells, Antarctic nematodes reviving after decades, rotifers surviving desiccation for years, hummingbirds and bats slowing heartbeat to conserve energy, killifish embryos pausing development until rains return, and all illustrating that life's endurance is not simply about action or strength but mastery of stillness, energy conservation, molecular precision, environmental attunement, and timing, forming a continuum from microscopic organisms to mammals, revealing evolution's capacity to bend time and preserve life. And that suspended animation is both a natural strategy and an inspiration for medical and technological advances, where life, in the quietest moments, teaches patience, resilience, and the profound intelligence of waiting, timing, and harmony with nature, proving that stillness, synchronization, biochemical precision, and internal fire are as vital to survival as strength, speed, or aggression, and that mastering these principles allows organisms to endure, awaken, and integrate seamlessly back into the ecological and evolutionary cycles, whether through hibernation, estivation, and hydrobiosis, or cryogenic preservation, showing that life can pause, persist, and resume, spanning milliseconds to decades, from cells to ecosystems, across Earth and potentially beyond, with profound implications for human medicine, survival in extreme environments, and even future space exploration, where the art of waiting becomes a tool for life itself, orchestrating metabolism, energy use, molecular stability, seasonal timing, and ecological alignment. A testament to the ingenuity of evolution in creating resilient, patient, and enduring life across time and space, demonstrating that every heartbeat, every drop of water, every molecular arrangement, and every moment of stillness contributes to the continuity of life, where survival is written not only in strength but in restraint, timing, and perfect harmony with the environment, showing that life's persistence relies on the careful orchestration of internal and external factors, turning suspended animation into a profound expression of resilience, patience, and evolutionary foresight, where organisms from the simplest to the most complex exemplify how life bends to endure, pause, and return, teaching that the mastery of stillness and timing is as critical as motion, growth, or action, revealing that in nature, life can slow, wait, and resume in perfect synchrony, maintaining continuity across generations, species, and ecosystems, offering a blueprint for survival, innovation, and understanding in both natural and human-engineered systems, bridging biology, medicine, and technology through the shared principle that waiting, patience, and molecular mastery can sustain life where force or speed alone cannot, making suspended animation a cornerstone of resilience across the living world. Fat is not only an energy reserve, it is also a blanket and a shield. As before hibernation, animals gorge themselves to store enough calories to endure months without food, accumulating fat in layers beneath the skin and around organs, serving as insulation against the cold and a steady energy supply, while metabolism drops and fat slowly converts into water and heat to maintain balance within the body. And in bears and ground squirrels, special enzymes regulate the speed of this process, preventing starvation or overheating, with some animals adjusting the composition of their fat by increasing unsaturated lipids that remain fluid in low temperatures, treating fat as more than fuel, as a living resource, a carefully engineered buffer between survival and loss, while amphibians sense snow melt through vibrations in the soil, detecting the approach of spring as frozen ground begins to shift, releasing faint tremors from melting water and ice, which frogs and salamanders buried deep in mud feel long before the first warm breeze reaches them, with sensitive nerve endings in skin and bones responding to vibrations and subtle pressure changes, signaling that the world above is softening and triggering hormonal changes that awaken metabolism and prepare muscles for movement, ensuring that by the time the soil thaws, these animals are ready to surface and breed, perfectly aligned with the season's rhythm. And even in sleep, these creatures remain attuned to the world's slow heartbeat beneath the snow, with even brief hibernation able to reset a stressed body, as some animals, like hummingbirds and certain mice, enter short daily hibernation cycles lasting only hours, allowing micro-rests to dramatically lower metabolism, permitting cells to clear waste and repair damage, and experiments show that even brief induced torpor improves recovery from stress and inflammation, demonstrating that when the body is given permission to pause, it restores itself at levels deeper than normal sleep, and controlled metabolic pauses may one day be used in humans to heal trauma, extend lifespan, or stabilize astronauts on long missions, illustrating the principle that stillness is medicine across scales, whether a night or a season, with hibernation serving as nature's purest form of renewal, exemplified by brine shrimp embryos that can remain dormant for decades, producing cysts when shallow pools dry, sealing developing embryos inside protective shells that lose nearly all moisture, replacing it with sugars that stabilize cell membranes and DNA, slowing metabolism to undetectable levels, enduring radiation, heat, freezing, and half a century or more, only to rehydrate and resume life instantly when water returns, proving that life can step outside of time and return unscathed, each awakening an ancient rebirth. A lesson in endurance written by evolution into the smallest bodies on Earth, and evolution may have originally shaped hibernation to handle famine rather than frost, as early species faced long seasons without food, with fossil evidence and comparative studies suggesting that hibernation began as a defense against scarcity, allowing animals to reduce energy use and survive months of deprivation, originating in warm regions where drought, not cold, challenged survival, lowering metabolism to wait for rain or migration seasons, and later adapting naturally to winter, with many modern species still responding to hunger rather than temperature, reframing dormancy as a design for endurance, a system teaching that survival begins when the body learns to need less, with frost adding a new challenge to an ancient solution, while deep hibernation may aid humans in interplanetary travel, as crossing space takes years and continuous wakefulness demands impossible amounts of food and air, inspiring scientists to consider cooling the body and slowing metabolism, entering controlled dormancy that uses only a fraction of usual resources. As animal tests show, organs can function safely under deep torpor and radiation damage may decrease when cells are less active, with future spacecraft potentially including torpor chambers that monitor heart rate, temperature, and oxygen automatically, waking crew for short intervals before returning them to rest, reducing psychological strain and turning long voyages into manageable cycles of sleep, suggesting that humanity's first journey beyond Mars may begin with stillness rather than motion, while hibernation may also reveal ways to extend human lifespan. As aging slows dramatically in hibernating species, DNA repair improves, inflammation quiets, oxidative stress diminishes, and organs rest, preserving youth while activity ceases. With hibernators often living longer, healthier lives than related species that remain awake year-round, as scientists find genes and enzymes activated during torpor regulating stress resistance, metabolism, and cell recycling, showing that rest can stretch life's boundaries, slowing the body to repair itself at every level, suggesting that deep stillness may represent the most natural form of longevity science, as life in the frozen dark demonstrates that stillness can be strength. With microbes trapped in ancient ice and polar seas enduring in forms appearing motionless yet remaining active at a molecular level, dividing slowly with generations spanning centuries, enzymes maintaining structure and balance against crushing cold, persisting where energy is nearly absent, outlasting faster species that burn themselves out, resuming life instantly when conditions improve, proving that survival often belongs to those who know when to wait, while microbial dormancy preserves ancient genes beneath ice, holding life in suspended animation, and fat continues to play a key role in survival strategies, providing fuel, insulation, and protection, while specialized enzymes and unsaturated lipids optimize function at low temperatures, with animals responding to environmental cues, vibrations, and pressure changes, awakening in perfect synchrony with seasonal rhythms, even in daily micro-hibernations, permitting repair and restoration beyond normal sleep. Offering insights for human medicine, space travel, and longevity research, while brine shrimp, rotifers, and other extremophiles illustrate that life can pause indefinitely and return unscathed, with metabolism, molecular structure, and cellular repair preserved through precise biochemical mechanisms, reflecting evolutionary mastery over time, scarcity, and environmental extremes, demonstrating that stillness, timing, and internal resource management are as essential to survival as strength, speed, or activity. Forming a continuum from microscopic organisms to mammals, allowing life to endure, pause, and resume across ecosystems, seasons, and geological time, while providing inspiration for medical science, cryogenics, and space exploration, teaching that suspended animation is not weakness but a profound evolutionary strategy, where control over metabolism, energy use, and molecular stability ensures survival in famine, drought, cold, and extreme isolation. With lessons that extend to human applications, as slowing the body allows repair, preserves organs, reduces damage, and extends resilience, showing that life's mastery of stillness, timing, and synchronization is a cornerstone of endurance, from hibernating bears emerging in spring to brine shrimp hatching after decades of dormancy, underscoring that the careful orchestration of biological processes permits survival in the harshest conditions, allowing life to pause, persist, and re-emerge, demonstrating that nature's solution to scarcity, extreme temperatures, and environmental unpredictability relies on patience, restraint, and molecular precision, offering a blueprint for resilience, longevity, and exploration beyond Earth, where suspended animation, torpor, estivation, and hibernation illustrate that life's strength lies as much in waiting and conserving as it does in action and growth, showing that survival, whether in the frozen dark, arid deserts, seasonal ponds, or space, depends on mastering the art of stillness, balancing energy, synchronizing with cycles, and sustaining vitality through careful management of internal and external resources, ultimately revealing that endurance, restoration, and resilience are built not only through activity but through measured inaction, molecular stability, precise timing, and attunement to the environment, proving that life, from the smallest embryo to the largest mammal, survives and thrives by learning when to move and when to pause, making hibernation and dormancy among nature's most profound strategies for enduring the extremes of time, space, and resource scarcity, a lesson in patience, efficiency, and evolutionary intelligence that continues to inspire science, medicine, and our understanding of life's resilience. In permafrost that has remained frozen since the last ice age, scientists have revived microbes that slept for tens of thousands of years, with their DNA remaining intact through millennia of darkness and cold, persisting by slowing every reaction to a near halt, consuming trace minerals, and repairing themselves molecule by molecule, so that when thawed, they awaken, divide, and resume their ancient routines as if centuries had passed in an instant, and some carry genetic material unlike anything found in modern life, offering unparalleled insights into Earth's early evolution, demonstrating that dormancy can protect not only life but also the history of the planet itself, with the ice acting not as a grave but as a library, each microbe a page in the planet's oldest story, while space agencies are now testing human torpor chambers for long missions, aiming to gently cool the body, administer metabolic regulators, and monitor every heartbeat and breath so that astronauts in a slowed metabolic state would require far less oxygen and food, reducing costs and cargo, while being shielded from radiation and psychological stress of confinement, with animal trials already showing that the body can safely endure and recover from prolonged low-temperature states. And the challenge now lies in adapting these methods for human physiology while ensuring reversible transitions between rest and wakefulness, potentially marking a new era in exploration where the longest journeys rely not on constant activity but on carefully managed calm, echoing the quiet metabolism of winter life that reverberates across ecosystems, as winter grips the land, making the world appear still, yet every forest, stream, and field remains alive beneath the silence, with trees slowing their respiration, roots sharing nutrients through fungal networks, insects lingering in soil chambers awaiting warmth, fish resting near pond bottoms where temperatures remain stable, and microbes adjusting their chemistry to continue working at a fraction of normal speed, with this synchronized slowing preventing collapse, conserving energy, minimizing waste, and allowing life to endure until cycles restart, as winter's quiet represents balance, a natural agreement ensuring survival through cooperation rather than competition, and when spring arrives, every organism wakes in harmony, guided by rhythms that have shaped the planet for millions of years, where sleep, stasis, and survival merge into a perfect equation of rest, with rest following mathematical patterns of renewal across the tree of life, from mammals to insects, where sleep repairs the mind, torpor preserves the body, and hibernation safeguards the whole, deepening biological efficiency while maximizing recovery and forming nature's complete system of endurance, even in organisms without brains, which enter dormancy cycles to protect against stress, demonstrating that the boundaries between these states are fluid, part of a universal strategy uniting all living things, where nothing survives by motion alone and every heartbeat, breath, and lifespan depends on the balance between activity and stillness, with rest as an intentional design rather than weakness, and even in deepest stillness, life continues quietly through hibernation, as inside a hibernator, cells maintain minimal activity to keep structure intact. Chemical signals drift slowly through tissues preserving the blueprint of function, while from the outside the animal appears gone, yet within a delicate molecular orchestra keeps time with the world's slow pulse, responding to warmth, as if waking from a nap, memory intact and systems restored, showing that hibernation is not escape but continuation under different rules, proving that existence does not depend on speed or noise but on the quiet persistence of form, with stillness, when perfectly balanced, becoming the purest expression of survival, potentially saving lives during medical emergencies where oxygen runs low, as cardiac arrest or severe trauma causes cell death not immediately but through subsequent oxygen deprivation, which hibernating animals endure for months unharmed, slowing metabolism so that cells require almost no oxygen and producing protective proteins preventing swelling, inflammation, and toxic buildup, inspiring medical researchers to develop therapies that could temporarily induce similar states in humans, stabilizing patients during heart failure, organ transport, or battlefield injuries, demonstrating the revolutionary principle that life does not always need constant oxygen, only balance long enough to recover, while frozen organisms provide a natural blueprint for cryonics, exemplified by wood frogs in North America that survive winter by freezing solid, with ice forming throughout their bodies, heart stopping, and blood ceasing to flow. Yet they do not die, because before freezing, glucose and urea flood their cells, acting as natural antifreeze to prevent ice crystals from piercing membranes, reducing oxygen use to zero and halting metabolism until spring, when ice melts first in their blood, jump-starting circulation and awakening organs in perfect order, so that within minutes they hop away as if nothing happened, becoming a model for cryonics and the science of freezing and reviving tissue without damage, offering potential for preserving human organs, extending lifespan, and even enabling suspended animation. While bears, during months of hibernation without eating or drinking, recycle nitrogen from waste to build new tissue, performing a chemical miracle as proteins break down, gut microbes and liver enzymes capturing nitrogen and converting it into amino acids to maintain muscle mass, repair tissues, preserve bones, and keep kidneys clean, emerging ready to walk and hunt within hours. A cycle scientists hope to replicate in medicine to prevent muscle loss in patients and astronauts during long periods of inactivity, showing that waste itself can become nourishment when biology loops energy perfectly, and some animals even awaken midwinter to mate, with small mammals like hedgehogs, marmots, and ground squirrels rousing from torpor to feed, clean, or breed. While certain frogs and salamanders emerge on frozen surfaces to lay eggs in icy ponds, timed precisely by hormones, temperature changes, and lunar cycles so that offspring hatch when food becomes abundant, illustrating that hibernation is not a single stretch of stillness but a living rhythm that accommodates renewal and reproduction, with hearts that slow, reshape, and shift electrical rhythms entirely during deep hibernation, as in bears where the heart may fall from 50 beats per minute to fewer than 10, yet circulation remains stable, revealing that life's endurance relies on balance, precision, and molecular orchestration, a principle consistent across scales and species, demonstrating that survival depends as much on careful management of energy and metabolic resources as it does on action, with the frozen, dormant, or torpid states of microbes, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and extremophiles providing a unified blueprint for endurance, renewal, and adaptation. Illustrating that life thrives not only by movement but through strategic stillness, suspended animation, and metabolic restraint, and that understanding these mechanisms opens the door to medical breakthroughs, cryogenic technology, long-duration space travel, preservation of genetic history, and potentially, the extension of human lifespan, showing that dormancy, hibernation, and torpor are not merely curiosities of nature but essential evolutionary strategies that teach the art of patience, resilience, and survival through the quiet mastery of energy, time, and molecular stability, revealing a continuous thread from the smallest microorganisms preserved for millennia in permafrost, to brine shrimp enduring decades without water, to hibernating bears and frogs, demonstrating that across the diversity of life, the secret to survival lies not in ceaseless activity but in knowing when to pause, conserve, and harmonize with the rhythms of the environment, ensuring that life endures, repairs, and ultimately resumes its cycle with strength, balance, and integrity. A collective breath keeps the living world in tune with the turning of the earth, as the long winter slowly fades and the sleepers begin to stir, revealing that the story of hibernation is ultimately the story of renewal itself, a testimony to the quiet persistence of life, which never truly stops but only waits, gathering strength and stillness until the environment is ready to move again. As every heartbeat that slowed through the cold finds its rhythm once more in the warming months of spring. And every creature that awakens carries proof of this enduring principle, showing that even the deepest silence conceals vitality, perhaps offering the true lesson of hibernation, that rest is not the end of motion but an essential part of it, a pause that allows energy to return, just as the hush before dawn prepares the air for the first song of birds. Reminding us that slowing down is not defeat, but a wisdom written into the bones of the world, inscribed in the cycles of seasons, the rhythm of rivers, and the subtle trembling of soil beneath melting snow, teaching that patience, pause, and quiet are as fundamental to survival as movement, that life endures not by ceaseless activity alone but through strategic stillness, which replenishes, restores, and orchestrates a harmony between organism and environment, so that as we drift toward our own quiet rest, our breathing can fall naturally into the same rhythm that governs forests and mountains, allowing the noise of the day to fade, our thoughts to cool like winter soil awaiting thaw, and our bodies to sync with the slower pulse of the living world, knowing that somewhere, even now, tiny hearts are awakening beneath the snow, buds are swelling on trees, streams are rising beneath the ice, and deep within us, life is quietly waiting to begin again in its own time, showing that stillness is not emptiness but preparation, that dormancy is not absence but accumulation, and that in the same way hibernating bears emerge strong. After months of fasting, wood frogs leap after solid freezing, and microscopic life awakens from permafrost. Every organism, every cell, every molecule has a period of quiet rehearsal, a deliberate pause that allows repair, regeneration, and recalibration, a living interlude where energy is conserved, metabolism slowed, and structure preserved, demonstrating that survival and renewal are inseparable. That existence is maintained not by constant effort alone but by cycles of rest and activity. And as we learn from these rhythms, we can mirror them in our own lives, slowing to recover, listening to the subtle signals of our environment, honoring the quiet and the pause, understanding that just as winter leads to spring, dormancy leads to awakening, and that beneath the apparent stillness, a symphony of life continues in invisible currents of energy, chemical reactions, and cellular repair. All synchronized with the earth itself, all attuned to the cycles of light, temperature, and season, proving that the greatest strength sometimes lies in waiting, in patience, in the deliberate art of suspension. And so tonight, as you prepare to rest, you are held within this ancient pattern, this global heartbeat of life, your own body and mind finding renewal in the same slow rhythm that has guided countless generations of living beings, letting go of exertion, surrendering to the pause, and trusting that in the quiet, life is not gone but gathering, ready to emerge when the time is right. A lesson from nature that teaches us that slowing down is itself a form of wisdom, a vital and sacred element of the dance of life, and that within each pause, each moment of stillness, lies the power to restore, to rebuild, and to begin again, perfectly aligned with the greater cycles that sustain the living world.